content was not. A vision shared by Ministers Williams and Vaz has resulted in the realization of PBCJ1 that were it not for the problems of the global supply, which caused significant delays in the shipment of equipment, we would have met our planned target to begin broadcasting at the start of the next school term in January of 2022. With that brief background as to why we are gathered here this morning, I again welcome you all to this very important event, which is underscored by the presence of the Minister with responsibility for PBCJ, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, and Honorable Darrell Vaughan, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I'm now going to be inviting Mr. Justin Morin, Chairman of the USF Board, to come and bring greetings.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's very hard for me that act because not only of height, but also that voice is unique. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. So greetings and salutations to everyone. I'm going to be digital today, no paper. Most Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, Honorable Darrell Vaz, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Honorable Favour Williams, Mrs. Rosemary Cooper, Chairman PBCJ Board of Management, Chief Executive Officer of Universal Services Fund, Mr. Daniel Dawes, Chief Executive Officer PBC, Mr. Keith Campbell, members of the media and staff of both Universal Services Fund and PBCJ, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you good morning. It's a pleasure for me to bring greetings on behalf of the Universal Services Fund. Today, the Universal Services Fund will hand over a check valued at Jamaican 20 million to the Public Broadcasting Jamaica for the procurement of equipment to establish a second cable channel which will primarily broadcast educational content. Let me remove my mask. The end of the project is timely as the country continues to find innovative ways of reaching students whose learning has been disrupted due to the pandemic. The pandemic highlighted for us the great divide between the technological haves and have-nots. A divide the government of Jamaica, through the USF, is working tirelessly to resolve. Support of this initiative is just one of the ways that the Universal Services Fund is seeking to empower Jamaicans and improve the country's infrastructure through technology. Earlier this week, the USF handed over $22.7 million to the University of the West Indies under the USF's ICT Tertiary Research Grant Program. And this is to conduct research in the field of information and communication technology. The USF is not only concerned with education at the postgraduate level, but recently the USF provided ICT devices to the top performing boy and girl in the PEP examination from each parish. The Tablets in Schools initiative, executed by eLearning Jamaica, is financed by the USF to the tune of $700 million annually. Increasing the accessibility, affordability, and availability of information and communication technology is the cornerstone of all our projects. The mandate of making internet access available and affordable for all is the common thread that links all the agency's activities. We have a network of over 300 computer labs in underserved and unserved communities across Jamaica. 13 public locations today currently have free public Wi-Fi solutions, courtesy of the Universal Services Fund. These free Wi-Fi hotspots are found within high-traffic areas across the country. By the end of the financial year, we are also expected to complete another 189 free community Wi-Fi hotspots across 63 constituencies. The Universal Services Fund is also playing a pivotal role in the Government of Jamaica's expansion of the island-wide broadband network by providing funding of approximately $500 million to that project. These projects and efforts exemplify the significant involvement and investment made by the USF in the country's information and communication technology infrastructure. So before I close, I just want to extend hearty thanks to the Universal Services Fund management team and the team at MSET. They're, contrary to what a lot of folks think, there are many hard-working folks in government. I've seen it, been a part of it, and they work tirelessly. And I'd like to think that Universal Services Fund is not just a fund, but a fund with a purpose and a working fund. The team is out there in the field, managing the projects, managing the execution, ensuring things come off on time, and we get great support from the PS at MSET and her team, and we thank them all very much. So in closing, I just want to reiterate USF's commitment to the mandate of making internet accessible to all Jamaicans, and by extension, we are committed to the development of ICT landscape in Jamaica. Thank you.
I thank both Mr. Barnes as well as Mr. Morin for their contribution to this event at this point in time. And we hear of the things that USF is doing, and we are happy as well to be recipients of some of that benefit of what has happening with the USF. At this time, I will be inviting the Honorable Favour Williams, MP, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, to bring remarks, and she'll be followed directly by the Honorable Darrell Vaz, MP, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Let me begin by acknowledging the most honorable and Your Holiness, our Prime Minister, Honorable Darrell Vaz, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, Mr. Keith Campbell, CEO of the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. Let me acknowledge as well Mrs. Rose Bennett Cooper, Chairman of the PBCJ Board of Management, Mr. Justin Morin, Chairman of the USF Board of Management, Mr. Daniel Dawes, CEO of the Universal Service Fund and resident pastor, the team from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, students, ladies and gentlemen. I want to acknowledge as well all our local cable providers who've come on board to help PBCJ expand its offering. Special thanks as well and acknowledgement to Mike Saunderson of NWA, whose tireless efforts have helped to put us here this morning. I'm pleased to join in this official signing and handing over ceremony of the free-to-air education channel under the general management of the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. We welcome this partnership between the Universal Service Fund and the PBCJ as an important collaborative effort to provide high-quality educational television programming to Jamaica's children. This complements the work which our hardworking teachers are doing in the classroom across the nation. It is also an extension of the partnership between the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information and the Ministry of Energy, Science and Technology, through which we've been providing tablets and laptops to students and working on improving the internet infrastructure. We know that throughout much of the last academic year and into the current one, we've had to provide a number of additional resources to enable our children to continue their education through remote means. Radio and television broadcasts have been a major feature of these efforts. This arrangement goes beyond the challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. This will enable our creative producers of content to develop material that is culturally relevant to our Jamaican students at the early childhood, primary, secondary, and I dare say tertiary level as well. As you know, modern technology has transformed the way students learn and interact with their environment, and this is another opportunity to help our students perform at their best. Many studies have shown that using images, video, and animation alongside text help to stimulate the brain. Student attention and retention increase as well. Under these circumstances, in a multimedia learning environment, students can identify and solve problems more easily compared to the scenario where teaching is made possible only by textbooks. We know the challenges with internet access for many students, and while there are sections of the island that will also have difficulty receiving television broadcast, programs will nevertheless be accessible to thousands, and therefore we welcome this as an additional resource for students and teachers alike. And let me say we're also happy to note the work being done at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information and the Broadcasting Commission to transition to digital television starting in 2022 to the global standard, which is the ATSC 3.0. Here in Jamaica, we can expect to have more choice of channels, better pictures and sound quality, and a more efficient use of our spectrum. So, for example, broadcasters such as PBCJ will be able to offer several programs simultaneously using only the amount of spectrum required for one analog channel. Happy days are ahead. It's within this context, I want to express the appreciation of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to our colleagues at the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, the Universal Service Fund, and PBCJ for making this possible. This investment on behalf of our children will undoubtedly bring more rewards for years to come. Thank you, and may God bless all of us this morning. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Most Honorable Andrew Honis, Prime Minister, colleague Minister Favour Williams, Mr. Justin Morin, and the entire USF staff, Mrs. Rose Bennett Cooper, Chairman PBCJ Board of Management, and of course, the entire PBCJ team, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great day for our children and Jamaica's education sector. Today, the Universal Service Fund hands over $20 million to the Public Broadcasting Corporation to support the creation of a second educational channel dedicated to delivering educational programming to our children on a 24/7 basis. This is part of a broader initiative which will enable the PBCJ to transmit over the air multiple channels of educational content to allow students without internet connectivity to be able to access educational content via their televisions, even if the television is not a smart TV. As Technology Minister, I'm delighted that we are realizing our commitment to the people of this nation to enhance the technological infrastructure to further the educational pursuits of our children in this trying time. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in significant disruptions in the educational sector. Students and teachers are forced into the virtual space for remote teaching and learning, which may put many of our students at a disadvantage because they lacked the necessary infrastructure to engage in online learning. As a ministry, we have confronted this need, and with the support of our sister ministry, Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, we have continued and expanded the program of providing tablets to our teachers, as well as tablets and laptops to the students under the program for the advancement through health and education path at the primary school levels. Information and communication technologies are essential for the creation of inclusive societies and our overall growth and development as a country. As a ministry, we are using ICTs to create a digital government, make internet connectivity more easily accessible, and advance Jamaica's ambition to become a technologically enabled society. This has led to several initiatives across the ministry. We are working to expand the national fiber optic and microwave infrastructure to connect our schools and public sector entities in furtherance of our broader goal of universal access by 2025. A very ambitious target, but well needed if we are to meet the effects of COVID. Currently, Prime Minister, you'll be happy that all our parish courts and municipal corporations are connected to our microwave infrastructure, and so far we have connected over 100 government entities, including schools, using the GovNet communication backbone. We are making spectrum services more accessible through the establishment of a spectrum e-licensing system. This system will allow for better reporting, faster processing times, improved access to information, and online payments. Ladies and gentlemen, technology is essential to the creation of a bold and brighter future for all Jamaicans, and as a ministry, we are committed to building out the infrastructure and creating the policy, legislative, and regulatory framework to make this happen. When the work is complete, all Jamaicans will have the opportunity to access the internet, to work, learn, earn, and do business, and develop to their fullest potential. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the last decade towards the landmark year of 2030. It is no longer a marathon, but a sprint to the finish. The work ahead is great and daunting, but I believe as a people, we have the skills, creativity, and the drive to become a truly digital society. My commendations once again to the Universal Service Fund, and I wish you well in your efforts to connect Jamaica, one community, entity, and a person at a time. And just to say, Prime Minister, I can assure you that we are on track for the 189 community Wi-Fi hotspots by the end of March this financial year. We were launching up to yesterday, and the procurement guidelines are being met, and we will deliver the 3 Wi-Fi hotspots to the 63 constituencies, totaling 189, and of course continue to work with the Ministry of Education in relation to the procurement for the connectivity to the schools. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a safe and peaceful Christmas, but most importantly, I urge everybody here and outside to get vaccinated. Vaccinate before you celebrate. Because if you don't vaccinate, you may not be able to celebrate. It is as simple as that. Thank you and God bless you.
I thank the honorable ministers for their presentations, and I am particularly excited as the technical manager with PBCJ to hear of the changes that are coming that will allow us to do so much more within the same spectrum space. That is really exciting times ahead, indeed. I also want to just remind us that our board chair, Mrs. Rose Bennett Cooper, was unavoidably absent and is being represented by Mr. Ed Barnes, board member. At this time, we'll be having an item from Asari Dawkins, and she comes from the St. Dominic Preparatory School. Asari.
Good morning, everyone. Free Wi-Fi for the Nation by M. Garrix. Oh, what a liberation! Wi-Fi in circulation. Go tell mama, papa, old and young. In fact, go tell the whole generation. This is free access to the nation. Ring, 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 this story must be told. From here, there, home and abroad. This a real thing. This ain't a fraud. Sister, brother, no need to worry. Just hurry. This is communication, free and easy access to information. Come one, come all, no need for deliberation. Just get your devices ready for dissemination. Thank God, this gives us great satisfaction. Free Wi-Fi for the nation.
We thank Asari for that presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, we have been making good time with this event. And at this point in time, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to invite to the podium for the keynote address our Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Put your hands together for the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness.
I see that all protocols have been observed. I think the government agencies are doing an amazing job in maintaining the government's protocols. It's very important because in a society like Jamaica, government represents a large part of activities generally. Whether it is events, whether it is access to services, and therefore it's important that the government sets the example. And in setting the example, it is actually contributing significantly to the reduction in the numbers. Not everyone in the society will follow the protocols, but at least the government must follow its own protocols and thereby contribute to the reduction in the numbers. We have had some complaints by the ministries. They would have wanted to have a little bit more latitude given the season in which we are, for a little bit more in terms of gatherings and to acknowledge the festivity of the season. But we are confident that the protocols that we have set give sufficient latitude for us to acknowledge the season, but at the same time recognize that there is still a threat. One of the lessons that we have learned from managing the pandemic is that without a high take-up of vaccines, we have to rely on the shielding strategies, which is to shield the general public through curfews, gathering rules, the infection prevention protocols. So the question was asked of me, you know, how is it that our numbers are going down so rapidly and staying down so well? And people are not taking the vaccine. Is it that we have some special immunity in our DNA? No, we are not different from any other country in terms of our biology. It is simply that the government has used the DRMA to great effect, and we have struck, I think, a fair balance in controlling movements and gatherings and mask wearing and so forth, shielding the elderly, controlling access to persons who are in state care and custody and so forth. And that has kept the numbers low. But it is surprisingly, it is those very measures that people are frustrated with and would want us to dispense with. Because the truth is, those measures have impacted more, have had a negative impact on some persons than on others. We know that it has had a clearly negative impact on the entertainment sector and so forth. So I'm not here today to discuss the DRMA, but obviously it is of so much impact on the economy and the society and what we can do that at every occasion I try to just remind persons. I'm not going to, I promise myself that I won't be asking people to get vaccinated anymore. I think people are tired of hearing me say so. But it's good if they did get vaccinated. It would help, especially those who do not have any fundamental objections to vaccination, but probably are just uncertain, unsure, afraid, waiting to see. Well, the only thing you know from waiting to see is that the longer you wait, the longer the pandemic drags on, and the greater the possibilities for other variant strains to emerge and undo the sacrifices that we have made. But come 2022, the society must go on. Yes, we cannot hide away forever. We cannot continue with the measures to shield people forever. I think everybody knows what to do now. Vaccines are available. Masks are available. You know that you should maintain distance. If you are exposed, get tested, stay home, watch and see what's going to happen if you develop symptoms. You know what to do. So it's in your hands. So today, I'm here at another ceremonial event. Now, on a regular week for me, I may do as many as 5 to 6 or 8 ceremonies marking some substantial achievement or landmark in government. Now, the challenge I face with that is that obviously it's very time-consuming because a part of my job is administrative, another part is to develop policy, and then another part is to give advice and make decisions. But of course, I have the ceremonial duties, things like these, to really mark government achievement. And why is it important that the handing over of $20 million is important for the creation of a second educational channel that will be fully digital? Well, obviously, it means an improvement in Jamaica's information landscape. But as many ceremonies as we do, and the ministers may do even more than I do per week in terms of marking achievements, there is still a view in the public that not now go on. Not happening for me. Yeah. A new TV station, yeah, children might be able to watch it. But my pothole in front of my gate still no fix. It's the reality. Yesterday I listened to a very interesting call on one of our popular radio stations where a lady was lamenting that she had called for her pothole to be repaired and it wasn't repaired, and they came and they put marl in it, the rainfall, wash out the marl, lamenting the incompetence of government and local services to deliver. Because what it really comes down to, no matter what the government does with putting up new digital transformation and all of these nice sounding things, it's really highfalutin if the basic service delivery isn't there. It undermines the legitimacy of government. And so even though government is doing so many things, in some areas we're just not getting things done, and it leads to a frustration about the legitimacy of government. Because what really struck me, what was profound in what she said, is that she's not going to vote again. In other words, for her, government isn't working. And we have to pay close attention to that, because it is not true that government isn't working. Here's a perfect example of government at work. The point I'm making is that information is so important in getting a unified national ethos about how we feel about our country, our government, our systems, and indeed ourselves. In the era, the information era, where you have many channels of information, many modalities for information to be delivered. But the big difference between now and 20 years ago is that information can be delivered without editorialization. So when you had to depend on the editorial, for example, of a newspaper or a TV station, or government controlled some parts of media that could create an impression as to what government is doing, that no longer exists. And so operating in this new environment of not just democratic government, but a democratized media, meaning that anyone can be a journalist now. There are some Instagram and YouTube influencers that have more reach and followers than probably most journalists do, or even some newspapers do. And that is the environment in which we are operating. And depending on what view may be popular at the time, it can have an overwhelming impact on the mood of the country. And we've seen this encapsulated in various ways with various events that have happened where countries have said people have used social media to influence political outcomes. They have used social media to influence the outcome of elections and referenda. It's just how things are. And so there is concern being raised, even in countries with the highest level of democratic institutions, of the need to manage and control how information is flowing in their societies. I'm not going down that road. And I don't want anybody, because it's very easy for me to be misquoted, even when I didn't say that, as you would have seen on many occasions. But I've gotten used to it. That's just how it is. And I recognize that in the office I hold, I will be the target of attack. People will try to, because that is where you're going to get the most attention. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. My job is to bring the difficult and knotty issues to the public. And not everything that I say will be popular with everyone. But in my conscience, I must be clear that I brought the other side of the argument and the other side of the story, and the things that are popular that people believe that's the right way and that's how it should be, and not seeing that there may be dangers in some positions taken. My job is to bring the comprehensive view of the problem, even if it's going to get contentious and people will, attack and say whatever they want to say. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But at the same time, my job is to make sure that Jamaica does not veer off into extreme and positions that could be dangerous in the long run. So we're here today to launch, well, not launch, but to hand over a substantial check from the Universal Service Fund, which is an important agency in government for ensuring that all Jamaicans can get access to information services, particularly internet and television, broadband, etc. And they've been doing a wonderful job, the USF, over the years, including funding labs in schools through e-learning, funding the provision of broadband services and Wi-Fi services through community access points that are free all over Jamaica. They don't get a lot of commendations. I rarely hear, if ever I've heard, anyone call into the call shows to say, hey, congrats to the USF, I've gotten tablets, or I have free access, or we rarely hear that, but that's a functioning part of government that is doing very well. So today, in providing now this funding for the PBCJ, another area of government that brings into your homes or on your smartphone or tablet the proceedings of Parliament when Parliament is held. I have some things I want to discuss with you, with how Parliament is broadcast, but we'll talk about that another time. But another functioning agency of government which brings public information, much more needs to be done with that portal that you have. The quality and the content, I think much more can be done. But I have seen vast improvements in the content and the quality of the content that is delivered on PBCJ. In fact, you have developed a news broadcast, and people do pay attention to it and do watch the coverage, and it is becoming one of the channels on which you can rely on to get quality and reliable and accurate news. I think much more can be done with the channel. And today, much more is actually going to be done, because what you are now seeing is that your regular programming would not be able to sufficiently address another major part of our society, which is the need to provide educational information for our children, while at the same time fulfilling your role for social and public broadcasting. So you are now getting another channel. And what I like about it is that it's cutting-edge technology that will be used to operate that channel. You'll be DSO ready, so there will be no issue about switching over in 2022. That's great. That's fine. It's HD, I'm told. That means, you know, when you watch TV, sometimes the pictures may look a little bit grainy. That might be signal issues, but it also could be the quality issue. Now, if you have good signal, the picture will be crisp and clear. And that's good. I think that will be far more engaging. And you can do much more with digital, a digital transmission of your signal. Now, we have suffered greatly through this pandemic with education loss. And though we would have made great attempts, Minister Favour Williams can tell you, to support our children out of school, I don't believe that we can continue to have our children out of school for much longer. I think education has suffered the most in trying to keep the country safe. And we have to send our children back to school. There's no question about it. So for those people who don't want to take the vaccine, when children do go back to school fully, you will see a spike, because you will be having movement, greater movement between household and a gathering area, which would be the schools. So you will, there's no question that you will see some increase. But there's nothing more that the government can do at this time other than to encourage you to protect yourself. And if you don't, that's your business. But the government has to move on, the country has to move on, and our children have to go back to school. But I forgive my frankness, but you know, at some points we have to just confront the realities as they are. Now, the education loss that we have faced, we're not going to be able to regain lost grounds merely by putting our children back in the classrooms. You will have to consider, and parents have to support the efforts of the Ministry of Education. Some of these efforts may include extended hours for some children, special programs for some children, and indeed a deeper integration of the digital platform in the education of our children. It may mean that, you know, on weekends we still would have to continue with some of our programs and curricula through the digital platform using this very channel that we are funding today. So I'm using the opportunity to encourage parents now that you will have this standalone, dedicated channel, mostly focused on infant, primary, and secondary. There will be some tertiary stuff on it as well, but it's mostly focused on public education, infant, primary, and secondary. I'm encouraging parents that when this channel is fully operational, to sit with your children, encourage them to follow the classes online and on your television, and catch up with the curriculum and the information and learning that they would have lost during the almost 2 years out of school. The society will obviously see the impact of this in results to come from the various exit exams that we have. It will also have an impact on productivity and skills acquisition in years to come. There's no question. We are aware of that. And that is why we are rapidly moving to implement some of the recommendations of the Education Transformation Task Force. I see it as an opportunity to make radical changes to our education system. And a part of that radical change is, as I've said earlier, the greater infusion of ICT in the delivery of the curriculum. And so I fully, wholeheartedly, and totally endorse and support the development of the second channel. In closing, let me say that information literacy is something that the Ministry of Education will have to pay special attention to. In the digital era, in the information era, our citizens are going to be bombarded with all kinds of information. Much of the information will be inaccurate, misleading, and some might even be dangerous. This government does not intend to play the role of information arbiter. We have institutions in place to do that. We have the Broadcast Commission that looks on some of these things, but the government itself is not intending on going down that road. I think in a free and democratic society, information has to be free. But in a free and democratic society, so much more responsibility is on the citizen to be reasonable. And the level of reasonableness in the society is directly correlated to the level of education. So it's one thing to have information widely available, but persons who are consuming it are not empowered to properly place the information in context. When that happens, people will use information and make perverse and wrong decisions. So the only way for a democratic society to truly thrive in the information age is to ensure that its citizens are empowered to take whatever information is given in the society, whether it is information about violence and guns or, whatever it is, whatever information that people see, what they watch on TV, what they consume in social media. You have to ensure that they have the ability to reason and put it into context and be able to say, what this song is saying is good for fun and gimmicks, but I would never do that. But you have other people who will see a movie and say, boy, I want to be like this superhero. Or I want to be like this character. And become deviant. So, the strategy of our government in treating with our population is to ensure that we have channels that our citizens can go to get accurate information that will increase their knowledge with positive thinking and a positive outlook on life, a positive worldview, that they will become pro-social, pro-growth, pro-law and order, and that they will be productive and effective citizens in the democracy. And this is an investment in that. So, let me acknowledge in closing Mr. Ed Barnes, who is teasing me about my school in Manning Cup. Don't worry, they're doing well. They will. Minister Favour Williams and Minister Vaz, Mr. Justin Morin, Chairman of the Universal Service Fund, Mr. Daniel Dawes, CEO of the USF, Mr. Keith Campbell, and other team members of the PBCJ, especially invited guests, members of the media. It truly was my pleasure to have addressed you on this subject. Good morning.
And we thank the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, ON, PC, MP, Prime Minister, for that keynote presentation. He talked about several things: the responsibility of citizens to treat with information in a manner and in a way that is appropriate. Talked about the changing information structure that's happening around us. He talked about PBCJ and the need for some changes. And Mr. Prime Minister, I just want to assure you that with respect in particular to Parliament, there are some exciting changes coming very soon. And we hope, not hope, but you'll be seeing crisper, clearer pictures commencing the sessions that start in January. That project is very much underway and almost completed. So at the start of the sessions in January, you'll be seeing a much improved view. Yes, sir. So I really want to assure you of that in particular. And we look forward to the changes that were brought about as well by the PBCJ1 that will come on stream, the partnerships that we will be engaging with the Ministry of Education, and I'm sure other partnership with the USF and Ministry of Culture, as well as also technology. All of these agencies partner with us with various programs, and we also will be using whatever material that they have So we want to encourage the Minister of Education, whatever material is available, we need all that information because we now have a separate channel and we need 24 hours of content to fill that. So it's not too much. All right, at this time we'll be having the handover of the checks. So I'm going to ask the proper persons to come at this time for the check handing over. Sir, that's you. That's you. Oh, Mr. Campbell. Yeah, sorry. Let me ask the Mr. Campbell and Mr. Barnes. Also, let me ask the CEO of the USF to join the minister over here, please. Come front and center to make it easy for the media, please. Over here. Please. If you go... Yes. Get ready to put back the... Where is thing there? I'll get ready to put back the... Eh? Keith is coming right after.
See, calling.
Go back up. Go ahead. Very good. We thank you for that check handing over, but let me ask Mr. Keith Campbell, CEO of PBCJ, to come and do the vote of thanks at this time. Mr. Campbell.
Good afternoon, everybody. Most Honorable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, Minister of Education, Favour Williams, and Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, Mr. Vaz, CEO, or Mr. Justin Morin, Chairman of the USF Board, Mr. Daniel Dawes, CEO, Universal Service Fund, and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to offer the vote of thanks and acknowledge the contributions of our key persons on this historic occasion on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the PBCJ. To our Prime Minister, and of course, the Minister with responsibility for the PBCJ, we are indeed grateful for the thought-provoking insights on the importance of having this channel dedicated to educational content 24/7. And in particular, at this time when the prevalence of the COVID-19 pandemic and all its variants continue to negatively impact on our school system. I also note, sir, didn't document this, the challenges that you have thrown out to us. And I assure you that we will take them on. Special thanks to Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Honorable Favour Williams, for her dedication and being the catalyst that made the channel a reality. She has been the guiding force in the implementation of a variety of strategies
in the field of education designed to make our students excel. I remember that first letter that I wrote to you, and your response was within a matter of days, which was unusual. Would also like to thank the Minister of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, Honorable Darrell Vaz, who succeeded you, Minister Williams, and took on the task of ensuring that the funding required for the equipment for the infrastructure of the new channel would be made available through the USF. That was also quick in coming, and you surprised us with the announcement in Parliament, though many of us thought it was 20 million US. We are grateful to Mr. Justin Morin, Chairman of the USF Board, for his unfaltering support relative to the provision of the funds needed to make this a reality. To the CEO, Mr. Dawes, and his most capable assistants, thanks for all the guidance you provided in ensuring that all the processes and procedures and protocol were adhered to in order to expedite this process of the grant in record time. I actually received a call almost every week from Mr. Dawes, followed by emails about how long this thing was taking. And we had to be reminding him on a daily basis, almost in emails also and by phone calls, that these equipment were being ordered from overseas and they were local and from several distributors overseas. To this young lady who performed for us, Dominique from the St. Dominique Preparatory School, thank you so much for that very engaging and exciting performance. By the way, I got a text from our programs manager to tell you and your teachers that you're going to be invited to PBCJ to do a special feature. I don't know what that is, but you impressed her. Although not present, I would also like to express the corporation's appreciation to the CEO of the NWA, Mr. E.G. Hunter, and Mr. Michael Sanderson, whom you mentioned, Minister Williams, for their assistance and cooperation in the expansion of the PBCJ signal distribution via their continued fiber network. This is important because it will be increasing our reach to almost 80% of STVs, household STVs with STVs. JACO, which is the abbreviation for the Jamaica Association of Community Cable Operators through its president, Mr. Anthony Graham, should also be recognized for their efforts in assisting with our increase in signal distribution to most of the community cable operators. Lastly, I would also like to take this opportunity to place on record a hearty thank you to the team of motivated and dedicated staff here at the JVC. At the PBCJ, wow. I was thinking, I was actually thinking, Prime Minister, of Mr. Barnes, who, this is nostalgic to him. We have done so many things in the studio, which is, as he mentioned, is still a larger studio, driving in the Caribbean. And just quickly, it's driving, and we emphasize driving because the days of JVC, commercials weren't recorded. They were actually done live. So the mini miners and all those cars had to come through that big door, and they were done live. So that's why it is, it's a car. To the staff here at PBCJ, although lacking all the infrastructure for a modern broadcasting system, they have and will continue to undertake every task with vigor and professionalism. We have been encouraged this morning even further. And because they're so results-orientated, you will begin to see the difference. As Mr. Marshall mentioned, Prime Minister and ministers, come January, it will be a brand new parliamentary coverage that will hit you, all HD. We at the PBCJ will do our best to partner with our educators in using this channel to engage encourage and inspire students of all ages. And as I was mentioning to Minister Williams this morning, it is opening up the industry in terms of producing programs, not only to production houses and the PBCJ and the Ministry of Education's unit that produces educational program, but it will be opening up the entire production capacity of independent producers across the board. And in fact, even animators are beginning to think about creating animated educational programs that will attract the younger children. So this is indeed an historic moment for us. Thank you all for being with us today for the launch of the PBCJ1. Enjoy the rest of today, and I wish you all a safe and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
As the CEO said, thanks everyone. We just want to draw attention in closing to the new logo for the PBCJ, PBCJ1, as is displayed there. And again, thanks everyone for coming, and we look forward to the continued partnerships, and have a very Merry Christmas. Bless you.